Ignorant chefs in Hell's Kitchen name a more iconic duo. But when you think about chefs whose ignorance caused them to mess up real bad, this dude tops the list. When anyone thinks of messing up, they might default to a notorious contestant named Jason Underwood. I mean, there is a reason why Jason is the least favorite contestant on Hell's Kitchen in most polls. Not only did he make sexist jabs, but he had no skill whatsoever. And we saw this right from the first episode of Season 4. During the dinner service, while both teams were ready to get started, Jason was busy pampering himself. When the blue team received their first order, Jason, who was assigned to the appetizer station, was smoking on the patio without any worries. It's like Jason forgot that appetizers went out first.
Jason! What's he doing? Jason!
Chef Ramsay had to frantically go out looking for him because when has that ever happened on the show? This dude was already showing signs of being a dick. And when he finally came back to his station, he dished out the worst possible risotto I've ever seen. If you're wondering what it tasted like, I'll let Bobby Anderson explain that.
It was terrible, terrible, terrible.
Well, that pretty much sums up the disgusting dish Jason sent to the pass. But you know what? This one just lacked seasoning, but what he sent up next was inedible.
The rice is overcooked. Hey you! Come here!
The fact that Jason burnt the risotto pissed Chef Ramsay off, and he made sure to give him a good earful.
I don't want any more embarrassments. I just want to go eat some food!
He definitely deserved a good lashing, but did you see the audacity of this guy? He rolled his eyes when Chef Ramsay was schooling him. That reaction speaks volumes about his foul attitude. Jason too was embarrassed about the situation and wished he was back at home. That wasn't because he goofed up, but because he had to eat the burnt risotto. Yup, that was his punishment. I still wonder how he even survived Hell's Kitchen for a couple of days when all he did was give hell to everyone. The blue team was already in shambles that night with their performance, and the burden was on. Luis Petroza, who was working at the table side, tried his very best to keep the customers happy. However, with no food, how could anyone be happy? With no food going out, Chef Ramsay became very frustrated.
Me!
Much later, thanks to LaRosse Adrenaline, the blue team was finally back on track. And well, Jason eventually found his pace and belted out appetizers that were perfectly cooked. But there seemed to be a problem.
What's the matter?
They're all leaving, Chef.
What?
It looks like the diners were done waiting. Jason said that he felt like $1 million, but that meant nothing if there were still customers left to feed. After the blue team were understandably named losers, Jason claimed that he was better than Bobby. Now, Bobby might have been a poor team captain, but Jason was miserable. There's a huge difference. Knowing how poorly Jason performed on the opening night, I thought it would be Jason's last day. But he wasn't even nominated. This was a decision the team would regret much later into the competition. But this next contestant was riding on the pressure of being ranked in 3rd place when she first appeared on the show. The second time around though, things took a turn for the worse and Chef Ramsay was appalled. You may love her or hate her, but you can't deny that Dana Cohen had one of the most inconsistent performances on Hell's Kitchen. Some viewers even go to the extent of calling her an overrated contestant. While Season 10 was still fair enough, when she came back in Season 17, something seemed to be a little off. To be a bit more specific, her focus was awful. And you could see what I mean in the 11th episode of Season 17 when the red team wanted to redeem themselves after a disastrous service. The red team started off well with the appetizers, but as soon as they moved on to the entrees, problems came left and right. Now, Dana Cohen was working at the meat station, and when Chef Ramsay asked her for an update on the meat, she noticed that the Wellingtons were scorched.
Oh my god. Guys, I have to refire the Wellingtons.
She required 20 minutes for the refire, and for that, Dana asked Chef Ramsay if he could flip to another ticket. Basically, she just wanted to move on to the next ticket while the Wellingtons were cooking. And well, Chef Ramsay surprisingly allowed it. But it's what happened next that made him furious. When Dana sent her lamb to the pass, it came out raw and Ramsay was done giving her chances.
Everyone's walking around like we're just all-stars. We are currently behind.
It was astonishing to see Dana struggling at the meat station because she was so good in Season 10. Back then, she ranked in 3rd place and was even allowed to keep her jacket because of her extraordinary performance. So where did all that passion go? When Dana was on the last ticket, she believed that she had everything under control. However, when she sent the Wellingtons to the pass, this is how they turned out.
Just look at the colour of that beef.
Overcooked, Chef.
Yeah, it is overcooked.
In the hopes of saving her own butt, Dana went back to get some backup. But when she eventually sent her dish to the pass, it came out raw, and this left Chef Ramsay in great dismay.
I don't know where to go.
Come on, Dana.
I don't know where to
Don't
go.
stall us on the last ticket.
Ramsay was actually so disappointed that he sent the entire red team back to the dorms and finished the desserts with sous chef Christina. After a really poor performance, Dana's nomination wasn't much of a shocker. And despite Elise Harris being a strong contender for elimination, Chef Ramsay based all his decisions on performance alone and not personal feelings. Which is why Dana was asked to leave.
First of all, I couldn't wait to bring you back. But unfortunately, today has been one of the worst days you ever had.
Of course, with her talent and skills, she could have gone much farther in the competition. However, it looks like there was an issue. Not with Dana, but her oven. I came across a claim on Reddit where a user had to share some inside information. Apparently, sous chef Christina said that Dana's oven was defective, which is what screwed up her Wellingtons. Now, clearly that wasn't aired as a part of the show. But if that was the case, I think her elimination was totally unfair. There have been worse contestants who were given more chances, and Dana definitely deserved one. What do you think? Was Chef Ramsay even aware of the oven issue, or did Dana just truly screw up? Well, it's not the first time Hell's Kitchen equipment had issues. But you know how when everything else fails, the sous chefs are always there to take charge and save the day. But this next contestant decided to screw up on one of the sous chefs' most important days, their wedding service. And trust me, what was supposed to be a memorable night turned out to be a dreadful one. This happened in season 15 when Hell's Kitchen took on the responsibility of cooking for sous chef Andy's wedding service. I know, definitely not a day to fool around, right? But one contestant failed to receive this important memo. I knew this was going to be a rocky ride right from the appetizer round. But when it came to the entrees, it was nothing short of a disaster. Hassan Musulmani, who was at the meat station, frustrated just about everyone with his performance, and this infuriated Chef Ramsay. If you remember, Hassan was running around like a headless chicken much before the prep even started. Sometime later, when Jared Bobkin then communicated with Hassan about the timing, both of them got started with their orders. However, despite all the communication, they sent chicken that was pink, and Ramsay couldn't believe it.
This is not happening.
What was happening here? Chef Ramsay only wanted the best for sous chef Andy, but it looks like things were gonna go south real soon.
One more mistake, and I'm gonna kick you all out.
Imagine checking every last detail to perfection and realizing that something as important as food got messed up? That's exactly what the wedding planner was going through.
They just need to regroup,
Okay.
get their heads together.
All right, are they regrouped? Are their heads together?
We hope so.
Well, she definitely had enough reason to worry because only half the guests were being served. And guess what? Even the groom's mother hadn't received any food yet.
Where's our food? Do you mind, Mom? Split it 4 ways. Well, seriously, you think the mother of the bride could get some food around here?
That's how backed up the Red Kitchen was. I don't think there could be any bigger embarrassment than this. So Chef Ramsay dragged the red team into the pantry and whipped them left, right, and center.
Can't do this to me. Who cooked the chicken?
Hassan first took the blame, but also revealed that he had some backup ready. And thankfully, their third attempt was actually accepted. Even though both teams did complete the service, it was nothing like Chef Ramsay had hoped for. Sous chef Andy deserved better, and Ramsay was embarrassed beyond measure.
I couldn't even look Andy in the eyes. I was that embarrassed.
It looks like Chef Andy didn't make a good guest at Hell's Kitchen. One of the viewers recalled that she actually had to cook her own appetizers in another season. Do you know which one? Help me out in the comments with that, please. Anyway, another user joked about the possibility of Chef Andy having to cook and finish the service of her own wedding. Well, I'm glad things didn't go that bad, and she actually left Hell's Kitchen as a happy bride that night. Actually, I think Chef Ramsay should have known better and never hosted a wedding service here. Because if you know from experience, the outcome has never been great. What makes me say this though? Do you guys remember the 5th episode of season 3? That was the first time Hell's Kitchen catered a wedding service. And it went terribly. Now, this next contestant ended up taking on a role she wasn't even assigned to and ended up wrecking her entire team's performance. In the end, everyone was embarrassed, but more so Chef Ramsay. What happened is, like in any other challenge, Ramsay introduced a twist in this wedding service. Both teams were given a time limit of 30 minutes to shop with a budget of $100. And then they had another hour to cook their dishes for the wedding planning challenge. At the start of the challenge, Melissa Firpo turned out to be the self-appointed leader that no one wanted. Out of absolutely nowhere, Melissa took the responsibility of making decisions, and that was her first mistake. All of her decisions were questionable, and I wonder why the rest of the team just went with it. Right from the time of shopping, Melissa suggested that the team use duck as their main dish instead of lamb. Although the red team was concerned about the cooking time limit, they still went along with Melissa's decision.
Is that going to be feasible for all those people for the wedding reception?
They probably didn't want to argue, but this decision was going to cost them heavily. When the red team started to cook their dishes, Melissa started to act all high and mighty.
If anybody has a question, let's just ask me, since that's what the chef's been doing.
There was a time when Julia Williams decided to sear the duck breast, and Melissa just interjected and told her to do something else. She even insulted Bonnie Muirhead by asking Julia not to listen to her.
Supposed to listen to me, not Bonnie.
I'm not sure what kind of leader she wanted to be, but like I said, everything she was doing was wrong. When Julia took out the duck breast from the oven, Melissa oddly placed it back into the oven to keep it warm. Did she forget that she'd cooked the meat even further? In the end, the duck was incredibly overcooked, and the worst part was that Melissa refused to take responsibility for it. What happened next was pretty expected.
It's overdone.
I know, you made it overdone.
I didn't make it overdone. Your job, your station.
The red team sadly didn't have enough time to make another one, and when it was time, this was what Chef Ramsay had to say.
You're standing there acting like some jumped up little cave woman.
Well, I hope that helps her stay grounded, but the damage was already done and the red team was about to face the heat. When Melissa learned that the couple would be judging this dish, she was stunned. She told Chef Ramsay that the red team should just skip the challenge, and what do you think Ramsay said?
This is barely 24 hours before their big day. You are not going to spoil it.
Well, it's way too late to change your mind now, sweetheart. But Chef Ramsay had no idea that the dish was already spoiled. He only realized how bad things were when he served the dish. And at that point, I think the famous chef thought it would have been better if he had just listened to Melissa. Because, well, who expected contestants from Hell's Kitchen, seasoned chefs who made it this far into the competition, to serve something as hideous as this?
Right.
While an embarrassed Chef Ramsay passed the tasting, viewers were quick to judge the dish by the looks of it. One said that the duck looked like a loaf of bread made out of rubber, while another said that Melissa efficiently forced her team into making a rubber duck that they never wanted to. Melissa's poor leadership left Chef Ramsay so embarrassed that he actually had to hide his face behind his hands. He must have been wondering why he didn't eliminate her sooner. But this next contestant screwed up another memorable event for a VIP. And this time, it was a birthday party. Looks like this birthday party wasn't gonna be much of a celebration. And what's even crazier is whose birthday it was. Any guesses? It was Chef Ramsay's daughter Megan's 21st birthday. And well, she wanted to party with style, but what she got was hell. In the 6th episode of the 20th season, Megan's table was split between both teams. The deal was to make sure that all the food was sent out at the same time. With just 2 to 3 mistakes during the appetizer round, both teams finished things off at a good pace. However, during the entrees, Peyton Cooper sank the boat. Peyton was at the meat station with Sam Garman. On the first ticket, one of the steaks they sent up to the pass was rare, and then on the refire, the meat had raw fat on it. That's a really sad start, and it looks like the red team needed to step up their game.
Me, I got one medium rare, one rare. Come on, back in the pan, hurry up. It's raw white fat, come on, back in the pan.
When the next order for Megan's table came, Peyton was confident about the pad thai since he had cooked noodles before, but it was returned for being bland.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
Let me take care of this.
Thank you very much.
Chef Ramsay was beginning to sense trouble, and he had to check it on time before things blew up, so he said this.
What was that taste like to you?
Nothing.
Who seasoned that?
When Ramsay demanded an answer, not one person spoke up. Finally, the rest of the team threw Peyton under the bus, and he had to own up, leaving Ramsay dismayed. But when Peyton along with 4 others sent a raw lamb to the pass, Chef Ramsay kicked them all out of the kitchen.
With 3 nominees because I'm cutting the fat quickly. All of you, get out!
5 contestants working on 1 order of lamb and it came out raw? That's peak incompetence. However, this next contestant chose to screw around on another important day. This time, it was time for the fashionistas to taste a piece of Hell's Kitchen. I'm talking about season 10 when Hell's Kitchen was geared up to host a fashion night. During the fashion night planning challenge, Chef Ramsay asked both teams to make an appetizer and 2 entree dishes. One would be seafood and the other one would be poultry. Both teams had to follow the instructions given by the fashion designer and create a dish accordingly. Robin Almodovar and Kimmy Willis worked together, and knowing that they were the best of friends, this challenge should have been a breeze. But I was wrong, very wrong. Usually, to impress someone, chefs always go for their favorites, but Robin had other plans. She didn't want to work with the swordfish even though one of the judges loved it, and the reason behind this was so foolish.
Swordfish is like a tuna, and I don't really like cooking with that. That's what he said he liked.
Well, I guess she forgot she was preparing a dish for the judges and not herself. Despite Kimmy's quick reminder, Robin was adamant and pushed for sea bass instead. To make things worse, Robin wanted to serve the sea bass in its natural flavors, so she only used salt and pepper. How do you think that must have turned out? I don't have any hope for this poor fish, but Robin was confident somehow. When Robin presented her dish, Amanda Chi was drawn to the dish because of the color. But Meister, who loves swordfish, wasn't impressed with the presentation. Those are some mixed reactions, right?
I'm drawn to it because of the pink and green at the bottom.
It just needs to be sharper and more precise.
So how is the salt and pepper flavored fish though?
Quite bland. What about spices? What about zesty? What about pungent?
I can't believe Robin actually felt insulted after hearing the feedback. Like, what exactly was she expecting? Kimmy had warned her about it way before, and had she listened to it then, things could have been different.
You ladies come back here and try to cook in your damn stiletto heels.
Thanks to Robin's lack of self-awareness, the red team lost the round.
We asked for something spicy.
I told her 3 times we need to add spice, and it was like she didn't want to listen.
Most viewers think that this is when the bad blood between Robin and Kimmy took shape, but I think it was the incident that happened in the 9th episode.
I'm not pissed off at you. Talk to me. I just want to talk to you.
Chef Ramsay was amazed that two chefs put their heads together and presented such a hideous dish. Poor Kimmy had to face the heat for this too. But Robin just couldn't keep calm. Back at the dorms, she started to bitch about Kimmy, and this turned into a whole different mess.
I didn't call her out up there. Kimmy never takes fault for anything.
You see how the tide turned in just a second? It was supposed to be a team effort, Robin. I found a Reddit post that described this episode as a horror show. Well, that pretty much sums up what happened. Now, people tell lies for all sorts of reasons. Some folks might not have a strong moral compass, so they don't think lying is wrong. Then there are those who lie when they're stressed or anxious, like when they're in a tough spot. But then you've got people who just lie for the fun of it, even when everything's going their way and they're feeling on top of the world. They get a thrill out of pulling the wool over someone's eyes. So what category would you put this charmer right here? Now, what happened is, in the second service, Brendan ran into a few fish use. But it had another effect too. It exposed his conniving ways. He fired a sea bass for a table when nobody else was ready to send it out. And obviously, Ramsay wasn't too happy about that and gave him an earful, telling him to communicate better and drop another sea bass.
You've got to work as a team! Please!
Now, here's where things get really interesting. When Brendan sent out his second attempt at the sea bass, Chef Ramsay got suspicious. He had this nagging feeling that Brendan might have sent out the same sea bass that he had cooked 10 minutes before. And so he asked Brendan if he did, and what did this guy do?
You didn't start a fresh one?
Yes, I did, Chef.
So where's the old one then?
Threw it away, Chef.
Yeah, he had the audacity to deny it, saying that he started a fresh one. But if we know anything about Ramsay, it's that he can't be fooled. Obviously, he wasn't convinced and asked to see the older one. And what did Brendan do? He went to the garbage bin to look for the old sea bass, and I mean, the theatrics definitely made for sweet, sweet television, not gonna lie.
Chef, I can't find it.
But wait till you see what he came back with. Well, nothing. Just empty hands and a guilty conscience. His sly move would easily make it to the top 5 greatest fuck-ups of HK. Anyway, Ramsay didn't take too kindly to that and asked Brendan if he was lying. What's more, he even threatened to shut the kitchen down too.
Because I'm going to turn this kitchen upside down and serve.
God, even I've got the chills. Even the most hardened criminals would give up at that point, so Brendan stood no chance. He knew the jig was up. He must have felt the heat because eventually he confessed that the sea bass was in fact the old one.
Chef, yes.
Why?
Yeah, he only did that because for one, he had no other way out. He was caught red-handed. But most importantly, he was trying to save face. In all honesty, Brendan was probably shitting his pants when he realized that Ramsay wasn't buying his little ploy. Later, when he finally had another go at the sea bass, unfortunately for him, it turned out to be raw. Chef Ramsay was through with him at this point and kicked the men out of the kitchen. It was a tough night for Brendan, that's for sure, and his blatant attempt at lying didn't do him any favors in Chef Ramsay's eyes.
The only thing bigger than Brendan's ego are the lies that he tells, and I can't have that in Hell's Kitchen.
Oh boy, that sums it up perfectly. Remember how he couldn't stop bragging about his background? Everyone was clearly annoyed.
Aunts and uncles thought that I was just amazing. I made Thanksgiving dinner. My parents were like, oh my God, look what he can do. Like my eyes lit up.
So, what was your esteemed family's reaction when they saw you getting busted trying to lie on national television, huh? But, you know what? If Ramsay's kitchen was actually hell, this chef would be the first one to be put in the 8th circle.
Table! You get that!
Man, Tiffany's behavior was seriously annoying.
Who wants it? Who
I mean, she had this nasty habit of getting wasted, spreading gossip, and to make things worse, creating all this unnecessary drama and tension within the team.
You wanna get fucking choked out? I'm mad about choked out, you dumb cunt! Yeah, cunt!
She'd turn around and relentlessly make fun of the blue team for messing up during the service, as if she was way above everyone else, right?
Here's how you treated me, okay? You're here, I'm here. Don't do that.
Also, it was pretty rich how she kept preaching about how they shouldn't care about their pride and only focus on the customers.
Shut up. It's not about you in this competition. It's about the fucking customer and the food. Do you realize that?
Well, guess what, Tiffany? Those kids you dissed, they're customers too, and they deserve a decent time in the dining room just like everyone else.
I really hate cooking for children.
Oh, and let's not forget her weird potato dish. I mean, the people who tried that mess were customers too, and honestly, it looked like it could put somebody in the hospital. Tiffany's double standards and her knack for causing drama really rubbed me the wrong way. She truly played dirty by intentionally sending out an incomplete order of scallops just to make Barbie look bad and shift the blame towards her. It was all about her personal grudge, not giving a single damn about the team's performance.
Chef Scalps right here. Here you go, Barbie. I'll just throw you under the bus because that's where you belong.
And let me tell you here, Miss Machiavelli wasn't exactly the picture of honesty either. She even suggested they cook extra sea basses as some kind of insurance policy. I mean, what even?
Why don't we fire like 4 more fucking bass right now too, okay?
But here's the kicker, Dory is cooked to order. I mean, really, what the hell was she thinking? When the famous chef confronted her, she didn't even own up to her mistakes. Instead, she threw her teammates under the bus and the entire team got yelled at as a result.
Ladies, stop! All of you, come here.
To make matters worse, she acted like she had nothing to do with it in the first place. Her behavior during the service just screamed I'm in it for myself rather than being a team player. You remember that incident from episode 5, right? So Roy started griping about Mexican cuisine, throwing around insults about flour tortillas. And what's more, he even boasted that he could whip up better tacos than Kimmy, who's from Memphis.
Especially when you're going into a taco challenge that's supposed to be somewhat traditional, you don't use flour tortilla.
But then there's Tiffany, who had previously been about all this no whining policy, but she couldn't resist the urge to stir the pot. She took a big swig of her wine, got pretty hammered, and spilled the beans to Kimmy and Robin.
Basically it was like the whole oh, if she's from the South, then why was she using flour tortillas type of shit.
I personally think she would have made for a better tabloid writer than a chef. I mean, seriously, whenever she popped up on screen, I just wanted to hit the mute button. Brian really hit the nail on the head when he said this.
It's cruel and unusual punishment to have to look at her and I'm done with her.
But instead of handling the issue constructively, she used Royce's complaints as a way to pin the blame on Daniela, Dana, and Christina. Could you believe that? She started spreading rumors that Royce wasn't behind that drama, but rather those three.
There's a lot of shit said. Dana and Christina and Danielle said something.
But this incident revealed a lot more about Tiffany because what are rumors anyway, but a way for the weak to stroke their egos. However, I totally loved it when sous chef Andy called her out.
You're the floppiest cook I've ever seen my whole entire life.
And with that, Karen became the only contestant to date to be kicked out of the kitchen by a sous chef. Now, let's talk about Mia from season 18. Brett hit the nail on the head when he said that she's like a deer caught in the headlights during service or when she's got too much to handle. Sure, she's got some cooking skills, but Hell's Kitchen demands a lot more than that. She might come across as sweet, but in reality, she was pretty self-centered. Whenever she's even a little worried about getting kicked out, she doesn't hesitate to throw her teammates under the bus. Let's revisit her performance at Tilly's Sweet 16 Bash, except there was nothing sweet about it. Mia ended up at the fish station with Ariel, and things went south in a hurry. When sous chef Jockey pointed out that her fish lacked the right batter, she couldn't even send out a redo without it being raw. Then Chef Ramsay, in his usual snarky style, had a suggestion or two, which definitely revealed that Mia was struggling against the tide.
Give me the head and the tail and put it back in the water.
The blue team ended up losing the entire service, but it seemed like Mia conveniently forgot that her fish was a big part of the reason why everything went haywire. Nope, she just decided that it was everyone else's fault and not hers.
I up a fish, but Kanae also up a fish.
I vote Rowan Kanae.
During the eliminations, when Chef Ramsay asked her if she was struggling, instead of owning up to her mistakes, she immediately pointed fingers at Kanae. And then Mia boldly claimed that her fish station troubles were all because of this one reason.
I didn't set it up, Chef, so
Who set it up?
Kanae set it up.
Apparently, Kanae had messed up the batter during the prep phase. It was a clear attempt to divert the spotlight away from her own screw-ups. I knew it. You knew it. Chef Ramsay knew it. And her teammates knew it too. Thankfully, Kanai wasn't having any of it and stood up to her, confidently asserting that she had indeed prepared the batter during the designated prep time. And to add more fuel to the fire for Mia, Heather had Kanai's back, revealing Mia as a two-faced fiber. And that is precisely how she acted in that episode.
She's trying to play the blame game. She is lying right now.
In a nutshell, Mia attempted to scapegoat Kanai to protect herself, and that's just not right. It was a completely unjust move. Everyone could see through her pretentious act. She was so transparent, and yes, it was embarrassing. By now, all contestants should know that lying to Chef Ramsay's face is the wackiest thing you could ever do.
You fucking them and you fucking me.
I'm gonna fuck anybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you already know who I'm gonna talk about. During the HK3K service challenge, Zach was in charge of the fish station. When Chef Ramsay discovered a tray of already cooked salmon, Zach tried to pass them off as seared on the outside and not fully cooked. He brought the tray over to Ramsay, and boy, he wasn't pleased. He reminded Zach that salmon can't be cooked twice and that Hell's Kitchen doesn't serve fast food. Hear, hear. Anyway, Chef Ramsay shut that down and ordered Zach to start over. Near the end, Barrett sent his wraps to the pass, but Zach still wasn't ready with his salmon. He said they were coming, but when they finally got to the pass with Dan's help, this is what happened.
Salmon's wrong. Wrong.
But Zach had a crazy move up his sleeve.
The fish that I had just cooked off, all I gotta do is finish it off and send it out.
Yeah, so he tried to sneak it into the back, pick up an old piece of salmon, and toss it into the pan to finish it off. Chef Ramsay was furious and asked him if he used it, to which Zach swore that he didn't. However, this really wasn't the only time Zach tried to deceive Chef Ramsay. Ramsay didn't buy it, naturally, and asked again, but Zach stuck to his story.
Did you take salmon from the back?
I tried to.
Yes or no?
No, Chef, it's right here.
Wow, this man was committed to the bit. But don't say we didn't warn you, Zach.
Zach, Chef Ramsay's not stupid. He knows what's going on.
Amen. He swiftly pushed them off the salmon and replaced them with Jeremy. However, this really wasn't the only time Zach was trying to deceive Chef Ramsay. After their 12th dinner service, he really tried to pull a fast one during their elimination play. So because the blue team had a tie between Michael and he, Chef Ramsay called them both up to the front. Ramsay straight up asked Zach if he was better than Michael. And what did Zach say? He confidently said that he was, and even claimed that he would kick it up a notch when there were only 3 guys left. The reason he said this was because 3 dishes on the menu were his own creations. But then Anthony chimed in, saying that they all contributed to the menu ideas. Uh-oh. I really cringe hard trying to see him cover his ass.
Naturally, I had input from my team, but the basis of the dish was all me.
Oh boy, there was no getting out of this one. He kept digging himself a bigger and bigger grave with every single word. Man did have a meteoric decline. And well, Chef Ramsay made sure to call him out on that brutally.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I can smell it from here.
See? You can't bluff yourself out of Ramsay's game. Sebastian was the Joan of Arc in giving him that little nickname.
Zacky Wacky. Zacky Wacky.
And I think Chef Ramsay was finally in agreement. And hey, it's now a well-known legend that saying those 2 words in front of a mirror at midnight will summon an angry Gordon Ramsay. Try at your own risk. But you know what? I think Johnny was on a whole new level when it came to lying on the show. His attempt to save his own skin by bending the truth was pretty damn obvious. So after their 8th service, the blue team couldn't agree on just 2 nominees, and it ended up being Johnny, Polly, and Wendy, who got called down by Chef Ramsay. During his plea, Johnny started off by painting himself as a hard worker who always owned up to his actions. But when the famous chef asked him straight up what went wrong, Johnny shifted all the blame to his teammates.
Chef, my team let me down on searing that fish. That is an honest, I just did not know.
That's when Shayna stepped in and told Chef Ramsay that she had actually asked him about searing the fish before the service even began. Johnny denied it, but guess what? The video footage backed Shayna up. It was like watching someone try to talk their way out of a speeding ticket when there's clear evidence they were breaking the law.
We're gonna go with searing all sides?
We don't rest any of our fish over here.
The last time I uploaded a video about Johnny, some of you had some very strong opinion on him. Like this one right here that says, Johnny completely lying on that girl because he refused to take responsibility? I feel awful for anyone who ever married him. And I kinda get why he's so hated. Chef Ramsay wasn't having any of it, and Johnny just got the boot because his failure to sear the fish on time tanked the blue team that night, which clearly triggered him.
For me to be standing here right now, I want to rip out the beautiful hair in my head.
Wait, what was that again? So up next is Sarah and her perverse delight in seeing her own teammates fail.
Sarah, how long?
1 minute, chef.
It's your call, it's your section.
Yes, chef.
Heather, do you understand that?
Yes.
It's her bloody call.
I mean, seriously, take a look at that sadistic grin. She went out of her way to make the competition miserable for Heather and her teammates. Now, in the fourth service, Sarah was holding down the fort at the fish station, and from the get-go, her communication skills were a mess when dealing with Rachel. When Rachel was all set to plate her first appetizer, Sarah's lack of response was beyond irritating. Rachel had to shout for help 3 times before Sarah finally acknowledged her existence. But that's not all. When Virginia asked if Sarah was ready with her turbot, Sarah confidently said that she was good to go. Trusting her word, Virginia sent her Wellingtons to the pass. Can you imagine what happened next?
Where's the turbot?
She said that she's ready.
No, she didn't even start cooking it.
Yeah, you guessed it. This petty little saboteur hadn't even cooked the turbot.
So now you want to start lying to me.
I'm not lying to you, Chef. She said that she's ready when I am.
Virginia, who got chewed out by Ramsay through no fault of her own, was understandably furious about Sarah's sneaky move. The worst part? Sarah was a terrible liar without a single hint of guilt or remorse.
I don't necessarily see that as such a bad thing.
A Reddit user who even went to boarding school with her revealed that she used to be a bully even back then. So, essentially, the show just brought out who she really was the whole time. She's vindictive and inflicted a lot of trauma on this poor Redditor. Turns out, even then, she snitched on them in order to save herself and make the others take the fall. Surprise, surprise. She didn't change one bit, huh? Some people's emotional maturity stunt at high school, and they just stop working on their personality after that. And then, of course, who else but this guy could finish off today's list?
Lift the bottom of the Wellington over. Oh, come on.
And that, my friend, is Brad. In my opinion, he deserved a spot in the Black Jackets. He showed mad skills even though he had a bit of a stumble in the last 2 services, especially Risotto Gate. Still, I believe he had the potential to bounce back and prove himself in the later stages of the competition. What do you think? Anyway, back to the 3rd service. When asked for the time left on the Wellingtons, he responded by saying,
"Going 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
But what did he do? He took a Wellington he just cooked, and instead of tossing it, he tried to scrape off the burnt bits. Sneaky move, right? But Chef Ramsay spotted him in the act from all the way across the kitchen.
Where's your brain? I just cannot believe this.
Phew, close call. That Wellington might have hit the plate if Chef Ramsay hadn't caught him red-handed and threatened to kick his ass sideways. You see, it's not like anyone actually wants to lie to Chef Ramsay, but they get so caught up in it all that they ended up lying just to save their asses over the tiniest things. If you ask me, it's always better to tell Ramsay like it is, cause when you try to fabricate a bunch of lies, Chef Ramsay's gonna be all over you real quick. So who do you think was the biggest liar of them all? Drop those names in the comments section down below. And if you want to keep the discussion going, don't forget to join me on my channel's Discord server for free. And yes, I do have an exclusive server for those of you who are interested. But before you head out, make sure to smack that like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. Also, don't forget to check out my latest video right here since it's even crazier.